Hey guys, it's John. You're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. This is my 3-hitch system recently introduced. This video is about how to construct this system. It's now available as a kit from Ape Canyon Outfitters. This is the 40-foot version. It's available in a 60-foot version. Here's a custom I built for myself. This is 88 feet. We're calling 80 feet the universal system. And here in the box, right from Ape Canyon Outfitters, is a brand new 60-foot kit. I'm going to be showing you how you can turn this into this. Now, if you've purchased the kit or if you purchase the components individually, these instructions will serve. I'm not planning on redoing this video if we make any minor tweaks to the kit contents. For example, let's say we have an option for different cordage. Or let's say we switch out a carabiner or a different color of some cordage. Minor details are minor details. The instructions will stand. In terms of a priori knowledge, there's a few knots you need to know, most notably the Longhorn Agile Hitch, and we'll be tying it in stable mode. Look for supporting videos in the video description for this video, and also on the website jrbtreeclimbing.com, on the page for the 3-hitch system, you'll have that and a ton of other details and supporting videos. We're not going to be talking about why we made all these decisions today. We're simply going to be focusing on constructing the kit. Okay, let's get started and I'll show you what's in the box. Okay, so let's take a look at the contents of the kit and what we need to build it. Starting with the rope. You've got your pre-selected length. This is the 60-foot hybrid. On one end of the rope, we've decided to go with a sewn eye, and we're including a stainless steel quick link. That'll help you get started in SRT mode if you're not comfortable with any of the anchor knots. It's a great way to get started, and if you prefer to stay with that anchor, you can do so. On the other end of the rope, we've just got a sealed end, but we're including a couple of feet of utility cord for creating the JRB End Loop, which will help rig that into the tree. We've got 5 pieces of 6mm TRC at approximately 80 inches that'll be used to create the friction hitches, one for your optional redundant bridge, but recommended, and one as a spare. In terms of carabiners, we've got 3 of the Raiders, 3 of the Notch HMS, 2 rigging carabiners. They're micro Raiders, quite small but great for rigging your rope into a tree. And I'm including 1 rappel ring for special purposes, and we'll go over that at another time in a different video. We're also including a 50-foot length of accessory cord. Now the color of that may vary, but mine's black, and I can tell you, no matter what color that is, it's really not going to be a big deal in terms of a deer seeing it. I actually prefer a bright color so I don't forget that on the floor of the forest. And of course 50 feet is more than you need. We'll cut that down to our appropriate size. In terms of the tools you need to do the job, this is really it. I do like to have a piece of electrical tape or something similar for cutting the rope and creating the JRB End Loop. We're going to need a hammer and a nail for creating that. This happens to be a 12-penny nail. Anything that's a little thicker than that 2.5mm accessory cord. And if you have it, some heat shrink tubing and a lighter. If not, we can simply use the electrical tape to finish up the JRB End Loop. Okay, let's get started. Next, we're going to prepare the rope end. I'll put a small piece of electrical tape where I'm going to cut it. Use a knife or just break that off. And if you have heat shrink tubing, I've cut a 1-inch portion, slide that over the end of the rope. And if you don't, no big deal, we can just tape it up. Next, we'll grab our nail and I'm going to hammer the nail through the line close to the electrical tape. Let's say it's about a 1/4 inch away. I'm going to hammer that right through the line. try to get it right through the middle. You can see I've got that nail right through the center of the rope. We're now going to cut the rope in the center of the electrical tape. I want about a 1/2 inch space between the nail and the end of the rope. You could err on the side of more than less, so I'll go closer to the right side. This can be done without the tape, but that tape helps keep everything organized. And you'll want to keep your end. You can keep that in your filing cabinet, which got the lot number of the rope, as you'll want to keep track of that information. I'll now take my lighter, and I'm going to flame the bottom of this for about 20 seconds. And I'll have my rag at the ready, because I'll want to swab this end when I'm done. Okay, here goes. What we've done is we've melted that inner core. We've melted the inner core, and now it's cooling to become solid. We'll give that a little time to cool. I'm going to rotate the nail a little bit, make sure it's free. And it's not going to hurt anything if the inside of the core where the nail is also melts just a bit. And so a way I like to do that is heat the nail. I can just heat the nail. Can't quite see the flame here in the light of day. Spin that hot part of the nail back over the rope. And basically when I remove this nail, I want to be able to see right through it. Okay, let's do so. See my supporting video for creating the JRB End Loop. I can just see through, there we go, just see through that rope. And I'll take the sharp end of my 2mm cord and I will thread it through. It should go right through. I used a nice thick nail, no problem. And now I will be tying a sliding triple fisherman's knot. Got plenty of cord to work with. See my video on the sliding triple and double fisherman's knot, but it works this way. I've got my working strand on the bottom, and I've got the other end right above it, and I will make a triple overhand. 1, 2, 3 times, such that this end shoots up under 3 strands. Stuff you want to practice in advance. It's a little bit more of a challenge for me to do this today and stay in view as I'm self-filming, but we'll do our best. I like my loop fairly small. It's going to get a little larger when I engage tension on the line. I like to reorient, so I'm still working the same way. I can change the size of this. Let's make it around that size. And I'll repeat the process. Triple overhand. 1, 2, 3. Apologize for the lighting. You've got to know your knots. Got to know your knots in advance. So make sure you practice the sliding triple fish. I'm of course watching what I'm doing and trying to stay in view. But now I've got that tied. I'm going to tension it as much as I can. And then when I apply tension to the loop, you'll see that those two barrels come together. Okay, I'm going to step out of view and place a little bit more tension on this. Okay, so once we've got that tension properly, we know that these will stay fairly stable. Again, I can change this distance. I can change it. I like to keep that barrel fairly close to the actual rope end. And now I'll trim my ends. This end will be buried under the heat shrink. I'll leave about a ½ inch. This end really doesn't bother me if I leave it a little longer, so I'll leave 1.5 inches or so. I'd like to be able to grab it if I need to. I'll flame those two ends. And now I'm going to apply my heat shrink. Slide the heat shrink up. What I like to do is pull the heat shrink up until it's got at least half of the sliding triple fish engaged in it. Right about there, and I will apply heat. Doing this outside today under natural daylight, so hopefully got enough detail to follow along. But I've got detailed videos on creating your end loop. And if you mess it up, well, the good news is there's another length of cord, and you can just cut another inch of your rope off. Not the end of the world. As soon as that gets basically to size, don't overdo it. That looks like it's molded into place nicely. I'm just going to let that cool. All right, let's move into the lab and let's tie our hitches. Okay, so let's tie our hitches. I've got my rope up and over my little tree crotch, and I've got that end loop on the left side. That's just a convention I've always adopted. And this side with the end loop will receive hitch 1. If you were working with a rope which didn't have a sewn eye on the other side, you might have an end loop on the other side too. You get to decide which end is going to have hitch 1, and we'll call that side 1. Now, the exact length of TRC cord that you receive in your package, well, it might be slightly different than mine. The kit called out for 80 inches of cord, and my lengths came in at 83 inches, and the instructions specified I'd start with a 13-inch working end. But because I've got 3 extra inches of rope, 83 minus 80 is 3, I've got that 3 inches to distribute. I'm going to make each of these 1.5 inches longer. So 14.5 inches is what I'm going to go for. And if I've done my math properly, that should be a pretty good hitch. I doubt I'll need to retie it. The first step to creating the Longhorn Agile is creating the Longhorn. So I expect this to be a review. I'm only going to tie it once here in this video, and the other two I will tie in the background. But I'm pinching that point, that 14.5 inch point, and now I will fold the ends around the back, and as per the instructions on tying the Longhorn hitch, I'll start with the strand on my right. I'll go around the front and return it to its original position, 360 degrees. Holding it there, I'll take the other strand and do the same, ensuring that one end has gone over the other. Still working with the strand closest to me, I will shoot it through where my finger is. I'll do the same with the other side. And then I finish the Longhorn by taking both of these ends and shooting them up through. 1 and 2. I realize these ends are a little bit long, but that's okay. We can always trim them off if we want to. I now have to tighten that Longhorn by pulling on all the strands. Pull on all 4 strands. We want to get that nice and tight. It'll loosen up on its own. Okay, I've got myself a Longhorn hitch, and I'm now going to form the Longhorn Agile. As per the specifications, and being right-handed, I will take the strand on the left with the tails facing me. I'll take the strand on the left and I'll extend it out to 18 inches. I'll show you how I measure that once I get it approximately correct. So I've got the left side of that loop is tangent with the 0 mark, and the right side is right on the 18 marker. If you're working on a real tree, you could do the same thing I'm doing here. I have my foot on the rope so I can apply some tension here. And here is the Longhorn Agile in stable mode. 1, I place it. I've extended this to 18 inches. I've got the small loop facing me, got the supply loop at the bottom. I place this over the rope, and I will make 5 trips around the back, 5 coils. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, some folks at this point will have this loop just a little twisted up, and it complicates the rest of the tie. So I'll give you a little trick there. If that happens to you, I'll do this again. As I'm wrapping, ensure that you're not actually twisting the rope forward. If anything, give it a slight twist backwards, and that'll ensure that you're not imparting twist. So with my right hand, I'm giving it ever so slightly twist backwards. 2, 3, 4, 5. And see, I've got no kinks or spins here. It's nice. I go straight down. This is fairly firm. If you tried to move it right now, it's fairly firm. I didn't go crazy with tension, but I didn't make it loose and sloppy. And now I should have the right amount of cord to go around the back twice. Once, twice, and just get my pinky finger through there. That looks good. I now extend this loop. Right, these 2 loops borrow slack from one another, and pop it through. As I do so and balance the load, I've got myself a Longhorn Agile. Now, I encourage you to take this as is, each knot that you tie, and apply a load and test it. And just break it in and make sure that it is behaving properly. It's okay if it doesn't auto tend in the very beginning. It's just getting broken in. See my recent video on the Rubicon rope and how we get comfortable at the base of a tree. You can do that with each of your hitches, but I'm simply going to proceed and I will transform this into stable mode. Once we've got our Longhorn Agile tied and we're comfortable with it, we'll transform it into stable mode. So watch how I do that carefully. As tied, the loops are emerging out of the back. Well, I want to reorient it so that the the loops are facing me so that it's easier to work with. And incidentally, that'll be the direction it faces me when I climb. This is the supply loop, the loop leading into the nugget. I want to make that fairly short, just long enough to get my thumb through it. I will then take the long loop, go through the short loop, bring it around, and I'm going to bring these two strands down through. I'm basically making a reef knot on these two strands. I call that stable mode because this is just much more stable once you give that tension, and still applies load the same way. There's still 50% on these two strands and 50% on these two strands. But it's more stable, and if you ever accidentally clip into only one loop, the hitch will not come apart. So this is the way I prefer to use it. This is just about the right amount of space to comfortably put a carabiner in. If we wanted these just a tiny bit smaller, we could retie the whole thing with a slightly longer working end. But I like these to be about 1.5 inches, and that's exactly where they are. Okay, so I'm going to tie 2 more hitches. I'll just come over here on this rope and I'll tie hitch 2 exactly the same, facing the other direction, so they're both facing up. And then I'll bring the rope down here and I'll tie hitch 3 going in that direction. Be right back. Okay, so we had to speed that up to keep this video at a normal length, but all I really did was tie the same hitch 3 times. Tied it here, I tied it here, and then I ran the rope over and tied it again here. We've got hitch 1, hitch 2, and hitch 3. Now in terms of how they are used, it's going to vary based on the climbing method. It is good for you to test each of these hitches individually, put the rope on a tree and test them, make sure that they're moving. There's going to be a little bit of break-in. Initially, when you start to use a hitch, sometimes it doesn't grab all the time. It needs to, these microfibers inside the hitch break in over time. If you ever have a hitch that's elongating, it might be tied a little bit too long. We can tighten it up with a slightly smaller working end. If it doesn't hold right away, you can pinch here as you're placing load and it'll grab. And of course, test your ability to reliably break it under load. Okay, let's take a look at our carabiners and how we might use and store them. If you're going to have your carabiners contacting a metal pole like the Maverick pole, and you want to make them basically more noise resistant, you could slip a piece of tubular webbing over here, but I've been working with gaffer tape all my life, and it's available in brown. I've got a link on my website. I'm going to peel off about a 1 foot piece. I've ripped it at about 5/8 or inch or so, and I'm just going to wrap the bottom of my carabiner with this. It does a really good job of remaining flexible. Like this tape, you'll be able to, it won't dry rot. You'll be able to peel this off in 5 years and be like you just put it on. If it gets really hot in a car, it can get a little slimy and grimy, but I've heard from some folks who like hockey tape. I'm not sure I've tried that or own it. Gaffer's tape works real well. So I just like a little bit on the end of my carabiner that might be contacting the Maverick pole if I'm using something like the Bloodgood hitch. Okay, now the kit has a total of 6 carabiners, so let's talk about what we use them for. I've got 1 carabiner for my long bridge, 1 carabiner for my short bridge in normal mode. But if I'm ever hitch climbing and I need to do a transfer on my short bridge, I'll need a 2nd carabiner. And any carabiner that might be used for the munter, even in an emergency situation, I like it to be larger. I don't want it to be too small to form a munter, and that's why we've got 3 of these notch carabiners. In ordinary climbing situations, I just have one clip to my saddle or in my saddle bag, and I only use it when and if I need it. The other carabiners, what I like to do with them, so these are used for creating an anchor, such as the Bloodgood hitch or the Allegheny hitch, so I'd need one on either side, and then we simply have one spare. And so what I like to do with one of these hitches, so here's hitch 1, here's hitch 2, I got the all the way down at the other end of my system. I've taken hitch 3 and I've slid it all the way down near that sewn eye. I like to put a carabiner here on the sewn eye because I don't use it much. I'll leave it like this. I'll leave a loop like this at the end of my rope. And when I begin to coil it after a climb, I hold this in my hand and begin my butterfly coil this way. And that carabiner is always there and available to me. The other end of the rope, so this is hitch 1, that's where I'm going to keep, on the end loop, I'm going to keep one of those rigging carabiners. And when I'm rigging the rope into the tree, I've got some options. If I've got this carabiner here, I can engage both of these about like that for rope rigging. Definitely want it there for retrieval, right, when it's coming back down the tree. But we also have an option when we're rigging the rope up into the tree. This is usually adequate. I'll just clip this on here and pull the whole friction hitch through the tree. And of course, this is a bulky hitch, so if you can't pull that through the crotch, that might be an opportunity to either remove it or go with a basal anchor SRT if you've got the rope for it. We've got tons of options for where to store and how to use the carabiners. I just wanted to give you an idea. And we've got an extra one of these, and we've got an extra Raider for you. Okay, guys, that's it. The system is assembled. I've done a bunch of these. Once you know your Longhorn Agile, it goes really quite well. The JRB End Loop is a little bit more intricate, but if you've done a good job, that's roughly what it's going to look like. I do try to err on the try to making them smaller rather than larger, and good luck with yours. If you don't get it right the first time, you can cut it off and try one more time. All right, keep your eye on the page. Thank you.